Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started.
Sounds good.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Out of Your Mind, The Biggest Mysteries of the Human Brain by Jorge Cham and Dwayne Godwin.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride for the history of neuroscience.
It is.
And I can't wait to unpack some of the fascinating insights they share.
It's amazing how much our understanding of the brain has evolved over time.
Yeah.
This book does a fantastic job of tracing that journey, starting from some pretty surprising origins.
Okay, so rewind all the way back to ancient Greece.
Okay.
I was shocked to learn that Aristotle,
Yeah.
one of the greatest thinkers of all time,
Right?
believed the mind was located in the heart.
Hmm.
Not the brain,
Wow.
the heart.
It seems strange to us now.
I know.
But back then, it made sense.
Right.
They observed that emotions caused the heart to race. So they connected it to our thoughts and feelings.
Makes sense.
It wasn't until centuries later that we started to appreciate the brain's true role.
And the book highlights this shift with the ancient Egyptian Edwin Smith papyrus.
Right.
This document, from way back in 1700 BC, actually links brain injuries
Oh, wow.
to specific cognitive impairments.
That's amazing.
For example, they observed that damage to certain parts of the brain could lead to speech difficulties.
What's remarkable is that the Egyptians even had a word for brain eyes.
Huh.
Its inclusion in the papyrus shows they understood its importance,
Yeah.
even if they didn't grasp its full complexity.
So we've gone from the heart to the brain.
Yeah.
But even then, early theories are pretty far off. The book talks about Isaac Newton,
Right.
a brilliant mind,
Uh-huh.
yet even he had some misconceptions. He believed in animal spirits flowing through the brain,
Interesting.
which we now know is totally wrong.
Newton's ideas, while incorrect,
Yeah.
reflect the limitations of scientific knowledge at the time.
Right.
It's a good reminder that even geniuses can be wrong, and science is a process of constant refinement.
Okay, fast forward to the 19th century,
Okay.
where things start to get really interesting.
All right.
Enter Paul Broca and Carl Wernicke,
Okay.
two scientists who revolutionized our understanding of the brain.
They were pioneers in brain mapping,
Right?
demonstrating that different areas of the brain specialize in specific functions.
Uh-huh.
Broca studied patients with speech impairments
Okay.
and discovered a region now known as Broca's area
Right.
that's crucial for language production.
And the book describes the fascinating case of Tan,
Oh, yeah.
Broca's famous patient.
Right.
Despite understanding language perfectly,
Wow.
Tan could only utter a single word, tan.
It's amazing to think that a specific part of the brain could be responsible for such a complex ability.
Yeah.
Similarly, Wernicke identified another region,
Okay.
Wernicke's area,
Uh-huh.
responsible for language comprehension.
So they both were focused on language.
Yes.
But different aspects of it.
Different aspects, exactly. Their work challenged the prevailing view
Okay.
that the brain functioned as a single, undifferentiated mass.
Right.
They showed us that it's a complex network of specialized regions,
Uh-huh.
each contributing to our overall cognitive abilities.
It's like discovering that a city,
Yeah,
instead of just being a random collection of buildings,
right.
actually has distinct zones for different purposes.
Yeah.
Residential areas, commercial districts, industrial zones, and
Exactly.
so on. It
Exactly.
completely changes how you understand the city's organization and function.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And just like exploring a city,
Yeah.
scientists began to delve deeper into the brain's intricate workings.
Uh-huh.
This is where we encounter some ethically questionable experiments from the 19th century involving electrical stimulation.
Yeah, the book talks about David Ferrier,
Right.
who used electricity to map brain functions in animals, while his methods were controversial.
Yeah.
He did contribute significantly to our understanding of how different brain regions control movement and sensation.
Ferrier's work paved the way for Wilder Penfield,
Okay?
a neurosurgeon who,
Right.
while operating on epileptic patients,
Okay.
used electrical stimulation to map the sensory and motor cortex.
And what did that lead to?
His creation of the homunculus,
Right.
a visual representation of how much brain area is dedicated to different body parts,
Yeah.
is truly remarkable.
The homunculus is so strange and fascinating.
It is.
It has this huge hands and face,
Yeah,
reflecting the fact that a large portion of our brain is dedicated to controlling those areas.
exactly.
It makes sense when you think about how much we rely on our hands for fine motor skills
Right.
and our faces for communication and expression.
Absolutely.
And speaking of how different brain regions contribute to who we are,
Yeah.
the book then takes us on a journey
Okay.
through one of the most famous cases in neuroscience,
Oh,
Phineas
okay.
Gage.
Phineas Gage is the guy who had an iron rod go through his skull. Right?
Exactly. In 1848, while working on a railroad,
Uh-huh.
an explosion sent a tamping iron straight through Gage's head,
Oh, my goodness.
damaging his frontal lobe.
Wow.
Miraculously, He survived. But his personality underwent a dramatic transformation.
I can't even imagine.
I know. It's crazy.
The pain and trauma of that experience.
But what's really intriguing is that the changes in Gage's personality weren't immediately apparent. It took time for people to realize the extent of the damage.
This highlights how subtly but profoundly the frontal lobe influences who we are.
Right.
Gage's case provided early evidence of the frontal lobe's role in executive function, emotional regulation, and social behavior.
So Phineas Gage's story teaches us that our personality, our very essence, is intricately linked to the physical structure of our brains.
Absolutely.
And speaking of things that profoundly impact who we are, let's talk about the brain on love.
Love, it turns out, is a powerful force.
Yeah.
Not just in our lives, but also in our brains.
Right.
The book delves into the brain's reward system and how love activates those same pathways as addictive substances, releasing dopamine and creating feelings of pleasure and euphoria.
Hold on.
Yeah.
If love is like a drug,
yeah,
does that mean heartbreak is like withdrawal?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And in a way, yes.
Okay.
When we experience heartbreak, our brains are essentially going through a withdrawal process.
Interesting.
Craving the dopamine rush that love provided.
Right.
This is why heartbreak can be so emotionally and physically painful.
Wow, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
I always wondered why heartbreak felt so intense. Almost like a physical ache.
Yeah.
But the book doesn't just focus on the pleasurable aspects of love.
Right.
It also explores the hormone oxytocin and its role in bonding.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, is released during physical touch, intimacy, and social bonding.
Okay.
It promotes feelings of trust, connection, and attachment.
So when we cuddle, hug,
Yeah.
or even just hold hands,
Right.
our brains are flooded with oxytocin, strengthening those social bonds.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
It is.
The book even draws parallels to prairie voles.
Oh, wow.
These adorable little rodents known for their monogamous relationship.
Wait, there are monogamous rodents?
Yeah, apparently.
Do they release oxytocin too?
They do.
Interesting.
Prairie voles have high levels of oxytocin receptors in their brains, which scientists believe contributes to their strong pair bonds.
Wow.
It's a fascinating example of how hormones can influence social behavior, even across different species.
This is all so fascinating.
But it also
makes you realize how complex and interconnected our brains are.
Absolutely.
One minute we're talking about ancient Egyptian papyri.
Right. The next we're discussing love-struck rodents.
Exactly.
It's a wild ride.
That's the beauty of neuroscience.
Yeah.
It's a field that touches upon so many aspects of our lives, from our basic biology to our deepest emotions.
It is.
And speaking of complex brain functions,
Yeah.
let's dive into the fascinating world of memory.
Oh, yes, memory.
Okay.
This is where things get really personal for me because I've always been fascinated by how our brains store and retrieve information. And the book shares some incredible stories about memory, including the tragic case of Henry Molaison.
Henry Molaison's story is a cornerstone of memory research.
Okay.
In 1953, he underwent a radical surgery to treat his severe epilepsy, which involved removing parts of his hippocampus.
The hippocampus, if I remember correctly, is a brain region that plays a key role in memory formation, right?
Exactly. And after the surgery, Henry lost the ability to form new memories.
Oh, wow.
He could remember events from his past.
Okay.
But anything new he experienced simply vanished from his conscious awareness.
That's heartbreaking.
It was a profound loss for Henry.
Yeah.
But his case revolutionized our understanding of memory.
Wow.
Brenda Milner, a pioneering neuroscientist, studied Henry for decades, making groundbreaking discoveries about different types of memory and their localization in the brain.
It's amazing how much we can learn from studying individuals with unique brain conditions.
Yeah, it is.
So what did Henry's case teach us about memory?
One of the key insights was the distinction between declarative memory, which is our conscious recollection of facts and events, and procedural memory, which is our unconscious memory for skills and habits.
So declarative memory is like remembering what you had for breakfast this morning.
Exactly.
While procedural memory is like riding a bike.
Exactly.
Got it.
Henry's case demonstrated that even though he couldn't form new declarative memories, his procedural memory remained intact. He could learn new skills, like mirror drawing, even though he had no conscious recollection of ever practicing them.
That's incredible.
It is.
It's like his brain was still learning, but he had no awareness of the process.
Right.
It really highlights how complex and multifaceted memory was.
Absolutely.
The book does a fantastic job of breaking down the different stages of memory formation, from sensory input to short-term memory to long-term memory.
Right.
I especially appreciated the relatable examples they use, like remembering a phone number. It helps to connect these complex processes to our everyday experiences.
They also delve into the factors that influence memory encoding, such as emotional charge and repetition.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I've definitely noticed that I tend to remember things more vividly if they're tied to strong emotions, whether it's joy, fear, or excitement.
That's because the amygdala, the brain region involved in processing emotions, plays a key role in memory formation. When we experience strong emotions, the amygdala essentially tags those memories as important, making them more likely to be consolidated into long-term storage.
It's like our brains have a built-in highlighting system, inferring that the most emotionally salient memories are preserved.
Exactly.
But the book also talks about how we can intentionally improve our memory, right? Like those memory athletes who can memorize incredible amounts of information.
Exactly.
Wow.
Memory athletes use various techniques, like the method of loci, to enhance their memory capacity.
And how does that work?
The method of loci involves associating information with specific locations in a familiar environment, creating a memory palace that they can mentally walk through to retrieve the information.
That sounds like something out of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
It's amazing what the human brain is capable of when we train it effectively.
It is.
But how does memory actually work at a cellular level? The book delves into this fascinating concept called long-term potentiation.
Yes, long-term potentiation, or LTP, is thought to be the cellular basis for learning and memory. It's the process by which synapses, the connections between neurons, become stronger with repeated use.
So it's like hitting the gym for your neurons.
That's a great way to put it.
The more you use a neural pathway, the stronger those connections get.
Exactly.
Making it easier to access those memories.
And the book uses a helpful analogy to explain how this might work. Imagine two networks of roads. One with well-paved highways and the other with bumpy dirt roads.
All right.
Information travels much faster and more efficiently on the well-paved highways, right?
Makes sense.
So with repeated use, those neural pathways become more like well-paved highways, allowing for smoother and faster information flow.
Precisely.
And this highlights how our experiences, our learning, and our memories literally shape the physical structure of our brains.
It's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is.
It's like our brains are constantly evolving, rewiring themselves in response to our experiences. It makes you realize how powerful our thoughts and actions truly are.
Absolutely.
And speaking of profound experiences, the book then takes us on a journey to the edge of life and death, exploring the mysteries of consciousness and what happens when we die.
It's a universal human experience, this contemplation of our own mortality. And the book tackles this complex subject with sensitivity and scientific rigor, beginning with the remarkable story of Michelle Funk, a 2-year-old girl who survived over an hour submerged in icy water.
I remember reading about her case.
Yeah.
It's almost a miracle that she survived.
It is. Michelle's case highlights the protective effects of hypothermia and the diving response, an involuntary reflex that slows down the heart rate and conserves oxygen when the body is submerged in cold water.
So her young age, the icy water, and this diving response all work together to protect her brain from damage?
Exactly.
It's incredible.
It truly is.
And her case raises fascinating questions about the boundaries between life and death.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was clinically dead for over an hour.
Wow.
It makes you wonder if she experienced some form of death and was brought back to life.
It's a question that science may never fully answer, but it's certainly thought-provoking.
Yeah, for sure.
The book then delves into the phenomenon of near-death experiences, or NDEs. Those often profound and inexplicable events reported by individuals who have been close to death.
I've always been intrigued by NDEs.
Yeah.
What are some of the common elements that people report?
Common elements include out-of-body sensations, feelings of peace and euphoria, encounters with a bright light, and even a sense of being reunited with deceased loved ones.
It's amazing how consistent these reports are.
It is.
Even across different cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah.
But is there a scientific explanation for these experiences?
Scientists are still trying to unravel the mysteries of NDEs.
Right.
But there are some intriguing theories.
Okay.
For example, some researchers believe that the out-of-body sensations might be linked to activity in the temporoparietal junction,
Okay.
a brain region involved in spatial awareness and self-perception.
So when this area is disrupted,
Yes.
perhaps due to oxygen deprivation or other factors,
Right.
it could create the illusion of leaving one's body.
That's one possibility.
Okay.
The book also discusses the surge in gamma brainwave activity observed in dying rats and even a human patient.
Gamma brainwaves.
Yes.
Those are associated with higher level cognitive functions, right?
Exactly.
Like conscious awareness and problem solving.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that this activity spikes during death is both puzzling and thought-provoking.
It is.
It challenges our assumptions about what happens to the brain when we die.
Right.
This is getting a little too deep for me.
Yeah.
But seriously,
Yeah.
Out of Your Mind has been an incredible journey so far.
It has been.
It explored the brain's evolution, delved into love and memory,
Right.
and even contemplated the mysteries of life and death.
It's been quite the journey.
And there's still more to come.
There is. Welcome back to our deep dive into Out of Your Mind.
Yeah.
In the last part, we explored some foundational concepts about the brain, its evolution, and how it shapes our experiences of love, memory, and even death.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Now, let's venture into some more challenging territory, starting with the complex and often disturbing emotion of hate.
Ooh, this is where things get really interesting.
It is.
The book acknowledges that hate, while destructive, has likely played a role in our survival throughout history.
I think so.
It's like a primal alarm system, warning us of potential threats and urging us to avoid danger.
Makes sense.
But how did we go from fire bad to complex emotions like hate?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the book explores the evolution of emotions, suggesting that they developed as adaptive responses to our environment. Fear, for example, helps us avoid danger, while anger can motivate us to protect ourselves or our resources.
So in a way, hate is just a more extreme version of these basic survival mechanisms, amplified and directed towards specific individuals or groups.
Precisely.
Got it.
But the book also highlights how this primal instinct can be twisted and manipulated, leading to prejudice, discrimination, and even violence.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
It is.
So how does the book try to explain that?
Well, it delves into Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of hate. Which proposes that hatred is a combination of negation of intimacy, passion, and commitment.
So it's not just a single feeling, but a cocktail of negative emotions.
Exactly.
The book also points to specific brain regions involved in these feelings, right?
It does.
Like the amygdala.
Yeah.
Which we talked about earlier in relation to fear and memory.
Yes, the amygdala plays a crucial role in processing strong emotions like fear and anger.
Right.
What's fascinating is that under stress, the release of testosterone can actually amplify the amygdala's activity while reducing its communication with the frontal lobes, which are responsible for rational thinking.
So basically, when we're stressed or threatened, our emotional brain takes over, and our rational brain takes a back seat.
Indeed.
That explains a lot.
It does.
The book also highlights the insula as a potential hub of hate.
Yes. Studies have shown that this brain region is particularly active when people experience disgust. Especially towards individuals they perceive as belonging to an out-group.
You know, thinking about it,
I
get a weird feeling in my gut when I see something truly disgusting. It's almost visceral. Do you think that's my insula firing up?
It very well could be.
Interesting.
The insula is involved in processing not only physical disgust, but also moral disgust.
Right, the whole us versus them mentality.
Exactly.
The book talks about how our brains are wired to categorize people into groups, which can lead to biases and prejudice.
One particularly compelling study described in the book involves showing soccer fans photos of people being shocked.
Oh, wow.
Fans showed more empathy when the person being shocked was a fan of their own team, demonstrating how group affiliation can influence our emotional responses.
So even something as simple as wearing a different team's jersey can trigger a different response in our brain.
It seems so.
That's both fascinating and a little scary.
It is.
But the book doesn't just leave us with a bleak view of humanity, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It also explores potential solutions for combating hate.
Absolutely.
What are some of those?
One key takeaway is the importance of fostering empathy, especially from a young age.
Right.
Studies have shown that exposure to diverse environments and cultures can help reduce prejudice and promote understanding. The book also discusses the potential of oxytocin, to the love hormone, to increase empathy even towards individuals from different backgrounds.
So basically, we need to train our brains to see beyond group differences and recognize our shared humanity.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
It does.
Okay, let's move on to another challenging topic.
Okay.
Addiction.
Right.
The book frames addiction as a hijacking of the brain's reward system.
It does.
And as we know, the reward system is essential for survival, driving us to seek out things like food, water, and social connections.
But this system can be exploited, either through artificially intense experiences or through drugs that release huge amounts of dopamine.
It's kind of scary how easily our brains can be manipulated.
It is.
The book talks about how modern technology, with its constant stream of notifications and instant gratification, can overstimulate our reward systems, making us more vulnerable to addiction.
That's a crucial point. The reward system evolved in a time when these pleasurable experiences were much rarer. But now we're bombarded with opportunities to activate it, which can throw things out of balance.
Okay, so it's kind of like an evolutionary mismatch?
Yes, you could say that.
The book also provides a detailed explanation of how different drugs, from nicotine to opioids, hijack this system at a molecular level.
It's pretty intense stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me was the emphasis on dopamine.
Yeah.
Not just as a feel-good chemical. But as a signal for importance. It's like dopamine is telling our brains, pay attention. This is something you need to remember. But if it's a signal for importance, wouldn't that mean that addictive drugs are it's unimportant?
That's a really interesting observation.
Thanks.
And in a way, yes, the brain learns to associate the drug with survival, even though it isn't. The problem with addiction is that it hijacks the signaling system, making the drug the most important thing in the addict's world. This leads to a cascade of changes in the brain, affecting not just the reward system, but also memory, emotions, and even decision-making.
So addiction really does change who you are.
It does.
At a fundamental level.
At a fundamental level, yes.
The book also discusses why some people are more vulnerable to addiction than others.
It does.
Genetics, mental health, and even environmental factors all seem to play a role.
One particularly fascinating concept is conditioned place preference. Where certain environments or cues can trigger cravings and addictive behaviors.
So like being in a certain bar that you used to drink at.
Exactly.
Or hanging out with certain friends that you used to do drugs with.
Exactly. It's like your brain associates specific places with the drug, making it harder to resist.
So even if you're trying to get clean, just being in a certain place or seeing certain people can trigger those cravings.
It can.
That's really tough.
It is.
It highlights the importance of understanding addiction as a complex brain disorder.
Yes.
Not just a moral failing.
Absolutely.
It really emphasizes the need for compassion and support for those struggling with addiction.
Yes.
Recognizing that it's not simply a matter of willpower.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that's truly mind-boggling. Consciousness? What is it? Where is it? And how do we even study it?
Consciousness is one of the biggest mysteries in neuroscience. The book explores the consciousness as a kind of perception, but not just of the external world. But also of our own internal mental states.
Okay, so like self-awareness.
Yes, it's like our brains are constantly monitoring and interpreting our thoughts, feelings, and sensations.
But if consciousness is all in our heads, how do we know that everyone experiences it the same way?
That's the question.
What if my red is your blue?
That's a great question, and one that scientists are still grappling with.
Okay.
The book delves into some fascinating phenomena that challenge our understanding of consciousness.
Okay, like what?
Such as blindsight.
Blindsight. That sounds like something out of a superhero movie.
It's almost as incredible.
So what is it?
Blindsight occurs when people who are functionally blind,
okay,
meaning they have damage to the visual processing centers of their brains, can still react to visual stimuli without being consciously aware of seeing them.
So their brains are processing the information,
yeah,
but they're not consciously experiencing it.
Exactly.
That's wild.
It is.
The book also talks about subliminal messaging,
right,
where our brains can process information that we're not consciously aware of.
Yes.
It's kind of creepy, actually.
It is a bit.
Subliminal messaging highlights the limits of our conscious awareness.
It does.
There's a whole world of sensory information and mental processing happening beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts and behaviors without us even realizing it.
Right.
So you're telling me our brains can process things we're not even aware of?
It seems so.
That raises so many questions about free will and how much control we actually have over our decisions and actions.
Indeed.
The book also dives into some truly bizarre cases that challenge our understanding of what it means to have a single, unified consciousness.
It discusses the split brain patients.
Okay, what are those?
Individuals who underwent a surgical procedure to sever the corpus callosum,
Wow.
the main connection between the two hemispheres of the brain.
Wait, they literally cut the brain in half?
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
This procedure was used to treat severe epilepsy.
Uh-huh.
And while it was effective in some cases, it also revealed some startling insights into the nature of consciousness. Because the two hemispheres could no longer communicate directly. The patients exhibited some strange behaviors, almost as if they had two separate minds operating independently.
Like that example where they could draw an object with their left hand, but couldn't name it because their language centers were in the other hemisphere.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
It is.
These cases raised profound questions about whether consciousness is a singular, indivisible entity, or if it can be fragmented or even duplicated.
It does raise those questions.
The book also touches on the intriguing case of the Hogan twins, who are confined at the head and share some neural connections. I remember reading about them. They can even see through each other's eyes and control each other's limbs sometimes.
It's incredible.
Their case provides a unique window into the potential for shared consciousness. Blurring the lines between individual minds.
Exactly.
It's a testament to the incredible plasticity and adaptability of the human brain.
It is.
It makes you wonder if someday we'll be able to merge our consciousnesses with technology, creating a kind of hive mind.
That's a fascinating fall.
And speaking of the potential of the human brain, let's move on to the final section of Out of Your Mind, where the authors explore what makes us uniquely human.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm ready for the grand finale. We've explored so much about the brain already.
We have.
But I'm eager to learn what set us apart from other animals.
Well, in the next part, we'll delve into the unique capabilities of the human brain. From tool use and language to our ability to imagine, create, and ponder the big questions of existence.
Welcome back to the Bookworm Duo. We're wrapping up our deep dive into Out of Your Mind. And it's been a wild ride through the world of the human brain.
It has.
We've gone from ancient theories about the heart to mind-boggling discoveries about consciousness and beyond.
It's been a journey.
But in this final part, I'm really curious to explore what makes us, well, human.
It's a question that has fascinated scientists and philosophers for centuries.
For sure.
And as we've seen throughout this book, the answer lies, in part, within the incredible capabilities of the human brain.
So what sets our brains apart from those of other animals? Is it simply size?
While size plays a role, it's not the whole story. Elephants and whales, for example, have larger brains than we do. But the human brain is incredibly dense, packed with billions of neurons and trillions of connections.
The book talks about a period of rapid brain expansion that occurred in our ancestors a couple of million years ago. It's like evolution suddenly hit the fast-forward button on brain development.
And this rapid expansion led to the development of the highly convoluted, wrinkled cortex that we see in human brains.
So like all those folds.
Exactly. This wrinkling allows for greater surface area, essentially packing more brain power into a limited space.
So it's like nature found a clever way to maximize brain power without making our heads too big to fit through doorways.
Exactly.
The book also delves into the importance of myelination. The fatty coating that insulates nerve fibers, allowing for faster and more efficient communication between different brain regions.
So it's not just about the number of neurons, but also how well they're connected. Like having a super fast internet connection for your brain.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And humans have a particularly thick and well-developed myelin sheath. Which contributes to our advanced cognitive abilities.
It does.
But beyond size and connectivity, the book highlights specific regions of the human brain that seem to be particularly important for our unique capabilities. Like the prefrontal cortex.
Precisely.
I remember reading about how this area is proportionally larger in humans than in other primates.
It is.
And why is that?
The prefrontal cortex plays a crucial role in planning, decision-making, impulse control, and abstract thinking.
So higher-level thinking.
Yes, it's essentially the CEO of our brains, orchestrating our thoughts and actions, and enabling us to override our instincts.
Because that's why I can resist the urge to eat an entire bag of chips in one sitting.
Maybe.
Thank you, prefrontal cortex.
You're welcome.
But let's talk about another defining human characteristic, tool use.
Right.
From the simplest hand axe to the most sophisticated smartphone.
Yeah.
We humans are master tool makers.
We are.
What's going on in our brains that allows for this ability?
The book explores this question, highlighting research that points to the importance of the left anterior supramarginal gyrus, or ASMG.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is.
What exactly does the ASMG do?
The ASMG is thought to play a crucial role in our ability to understand and manipulate tools.
Gotcha.
Studies have shown that this area is active both when humans and monkeys use tools.
Interesting.
Suggesting that the neural basis for this ability has ancient evolutionary roots.
So you're telling me that the same brain region that helps us use a smartphone today might have helped our ancestors fashion tools from stone millions of years ago?
It's a fascinating possibility.
It is.
And it highlights the deep connections between our brains and our ability to interact with the world around us.
This is blowing my mind.
I know, it's amazing.
But perhaps the most remarkable human capability is language.
It's definitely up there.
We can express complex ideas, tell stories, write poetry.
Right.
Even debate the meaning of life.
Yeah.
All thanks to our sophisticated language systems.
The book delves into the evolution of language, suggesting that it likely emerged gradually, building upon simpler forms of communication found in other animals. However, the complexity and flexibility of human language are truly unparalleled in the animal kingdom.
Right, so we're not just talking about like alarm calls or something.
No, it's much more complex than that.
I remember reading about how children develop language at an astonishing rate.
Yeah, they do.
It's like their brains are pre-wired for it.
That's true.
And the book highlights the importance of symbolic thinking in language development.
Right.
What is that exactly?
Symbolic thinking is our ability to represent abstract concepts with words and symbols. Allowing us to communicate ideas that go beyond our immediate sensory experiences.
So when I use the word freedom, it conjures up a whole range of abstract concepts and emotions.
Yeah.
Even though freedom itself isn't something I can physically touch or see.
Exactly. And this ability to think symbolically is a cornerstone of human cognition, enabling us to understand complex relationships, create art, develop mathematical systems, and even imagine possibilities beyond our current reality.
Wow. When you put it that way, it's very awe-inspiring.
It is.
Like language unlocks a whole new dimension of thought and experience.
Absolutely.
But as we've seen throughout this book,
the
human brain isn't just capable of great things.
That's true.
It can also lead us down some dark path.
It can.
We've explored the darker side of human nature, from hate and addiction to the potential for violence and destruction.
Right.
It's a sobering reminder that our brains, for all their wonders, are also capable of great harm.
But ultimately, how we use this incredible tool is up to us. We have the capacity for both tremendous good and terrible evil.
This book has really been a journey of self-discovery.
It has.
Helping me understand not just the brain itself, but also what it means to be human. With all our complexities and contradictions.
It's a testament to the power of science to illuminate the mysteries of the human mind.
Absolutely.
And to challenge our assumptions about who we are and what we're capable of.
Out of Your Mind has been an incredible exploration of the brain.
It has been.
From its ancient origins to its potential future.
Right.
I highly recommend it to anyone who's curious about the inner workings of their own mind.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Out of Your Mind.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed the ride and learned something new along the way.
I hope so too.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride.
We'll see you next time.
Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.